I was so proud of my sister Amber that night. She had just received the Businesswoman of the Year award from our city's Chamber of Commerce, and I wanted everything to be perfect for her celebration party. I spent my entire savings on a beautiful navy dress and got my hair done at an expensive salon. For once, I thought I might finally fit in with her successful crowd. I should have known something was wrong when she barely acknowledged my congratulations at the door. Little did I know this would be the night everything changed forever. Before I share what happened that night, let me know in the comments where you are watching from, and do not forget to hit that like button and subscribe. Trust me, you are going to want to see how this story ends, because what I did with just one phone call completely destroyed their perfect little world. Let me start from the beginning, so you understand just how twisted my family really was. My name is Pauline and I am 28 years old. I work as an accountant for a small consulting firm downtown. Nothing glamorous, but I pay my bills and live quietly in my one-bedroom apartment. My sister Amber, on the other hand, is 32, and the CEO of Golden Touch Marketing, one of the fastest-growing companies in our city. She is everything I am not. Beautiful, confident, successful, and most importantly, our mother's pride and joy. Our father passed away 5 years ago from cancer, leaving just the three of us women to figure out how to be a family. But honestly, it never felt like I was really part of it. Our mother Martha, 58 years old, and a retired school principal, has always made it crystal clear that Amber is her favorite. Growing up, it was Amber's report cards on the refrigerator, Amber's dance recitals that Mom attended, Amber's college graduation that got the big family party. I learned early that love in our house was conditional, and somehow I never quite met the conditions. Even as adults, nothing changed. When Amber started her marketing company 3 years ago, Mom invested her retirement savings to help. When I asked for a small loan to fix my car transmission, Mom said money was tight. When Amber bought her stunning colonial house in the suburbs, Mom threw her a housewarming party. When I got promoted to senior accountant, Mom forgot to call and congratulate me. I kept hoping that someday, somehow, I would do something that would make them see me as worthy of their love and attention. When Amber was nominated for Businesswoman of the Year, I was genuinely excited for her. Maybe this was my chance to finally be the supportive sister to show up and be part of her success. I imagined us laughing together at the party, maybe even having one of those heart-to-heart conversations that normal sisters have. I was so naive. The award ceremony was held at the Riverside Country Club, the kind of place where membership costs more than I make in 6 months. Amber had rented the entire ballroom for the celebration party afterward. 70 people were invited, including her business partners, major clients, city officials, and of course family. I bought that navy dress specifically for this night, spent $200 I really could not afford, and booked an appointment at the salon that all the wealthy women in town use. I wanted to look like I belonged, like I deserved to be Amber's sister. When I arrived at the country club that Saturday evening, everything looked absolutely perfect. The ballroom was decorated with white roses and gold accents, matching Amber's company colors. Crystal champagne glasses sparkled on silver trays, carried by professional waiters in black suits. A photographer moved through the crowd, capturing every moment for what I assumed would be a feature in the business section of our local newspaper. Soft jazz music played in the background, while guests in expensive suits and cocktail dresses mingled around beautifully arranged tables. I spotted Amber immediately. She wore a stunning emerald green silk dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Her blonde hair swept up in an elegant chignon. She was holding court near the bar, surrounded by important-looking people who hung on her every word. When she saw me approaching, her smile faltered for just a moment before snapping back into place. "Pauline," she said coolly, "you made it." "Of course I made it," I replied, genuinely confused by her tone. "Congratulations, Amber. I am so proud of you. This is incredible." She nodded stiffly and turned back to her conversation without another word. I stood there for an awkward moment, feeling foolish in my carefully chosen outfit, before retreating to find our mother. Martha was at a table near the front wearing her best black dress, and what I recognized as the pearl necklace Dad had given her for their 20th anniversary. She was chatting animatedly with two women I did not recognize, but when she saw me, her expression became noticeably cooler. "Hello, Pauline," she said, not bothering to introduce me to her companions. "You look nice." It was not a compliment. It was the kind of thing you say when you are being polite, but do not really mean it. I had spent hours getting ready spent money. I did not have all to hear, "You look nice," delivered in the same tone someone might use to comment on the weather. As the evening progressed, I started to notice something strange. People kept looking at me oddly, then quickly looking away when I caught them staring. Conversations seemed to quiet when I approached groups of guests. At first, I thought maybe I was being paranoid, that my own insecurities were making me imagine things. But then I overheard a snippet of conversation between two of Amber's business partners. "I cannot believe she had the nerve to show up here," one woman whispered to another as they stood near the dessert table. "After everything Amber told us about her behavior, I would be embarrassed to show my face," the other replied. My stomach dropped. What behavior? What had Amber told them about me? I tried to approach them to ask what they meant, but they spotted me coming and quickly moved away, leaving me standing alone beside a tower of chocolate-covered strawberries, feeling completely lost and increasingly panicked. I spent the next hour trying to figure out what was going on, but every attempt to join a conversation resulted in awkward silences and people excusing themselves. Finally, I found myself standing near the coat check when I overheard two of Amber's biggest clients talking in hushed tones. "The Morrison account situation is just terrible," said a tall man in a gray suit. I had no idea Amber's sister was capable of such jealous behavior. "Trying to claim credit for Amber's most successful campaign," replied his companion, shaking her head. "And then, when that did not work, spreading lies about the family business. It is just vindictive." My blood ran cold. The Morrison account was indeed one of Amber's most celebrated successes, a comprehensive rebranding campaign for a local restaurant chain that had resulted in a 30% increase in their revenue. But I knew something about that campaign that apparently these people did not. 6 months ago, I had been doing freelance bookkeeping for Morrison's previous accounting firm when they were developing initial concepts for their rebrand. I had seen the original creative briefs, the preliminary designs, the strategic planning documents. Everything that Amber had presented as her own innovative ideas had actually been developed by a small creative agency that Morrison's had hired before switching to Golden Touch Marketing. When that agency lost the account due to a payment dispute, their work apparently disappeared with them. Except it had not really disappeared. Somehow Amber had gotten hold of those concepts and presented them as original work from her team. I had never said anything about it because I was not completely certain and I did not want to cause problems for Amber's business. But clearly these people believed I had been making accusations against my sister. The truth hit me like a physical blow. Amber had not just stolen intellectual property. She had preemptively painted me as a jealous, unstable sister who was trying to sabotage her success. I needed to hear this directly from her. I needed to understand how my own sister could be so calculating, so cruel. I found her near the main bar holding court with a group that included the mayor and several prominent business owners. She was in the middle of what was clearly a well-rehearsed story about building her company from nothing. "Amber," I said, approaching the group with my heart pounding. "Can we talk privately? I heard something disturbing tonight." She did not even look at me. "Not now, Pauline. Cannot you see I am busy with important people?" The dismissal was so cold, so public, that several people in the group shifted uncomfortably. But I was past caring about embarrassment. Too much was at stake now. "It is about the Morrison account that you supposedly created." I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Now she looked at me, and for just a moment I saw something dangerous flash in her eyes. "Excuse us," she said to the group, grabbing my arm and pulling me toward a quieter corner of the ballroom. Her grip was tight enough to bruise. "What exactly do you think you are doing?" she hissed when we were out of earshot. I think you know exactly what I am doing, I replied. I know about the original Morrison concepts, Amber. I saw them 6 months ago when I was working with their previous firm. You did not create that campaign. Her face went through a series of expressions: surprise, calculation, and finally cold fury. You think you are so smart I have been telling everyone you are obsessed with ruining my success. Do you think anyone is going to believe your word against mine? The admission hit me like a slap. You have been lying about me to all these people. I have been protecting my reputation, she said. You think I was going to let you destroy everything I have built over some ridiculous conspiracy theory? I told everyone exactly what you are, envious and trying to sabotage the family. Mom knows about this. Amber's smile was cruel. Mom knows you have always been jealous of me. She agreed that we needed to get ahead of your ridiculous accusations. I felt like the ground was shifting beneath my feet. Not only had my sister stolen work and built her award-winning reputation on lies, but she had systematically destroyed my credibility with everyone in their social and business circles, and my own mother had helped her do it. You cannot prove anything, Amber continued. And after tonight, after everyone sees how unstable you really are, no one will ever believe a word you say again. What do you mean after tonight? But she was already walking away, leaving me standing alone with the horrible realization that whatever was about to happen, it had been planned in advance. I should have left then. I should have walked out of that ballroom and never looked back. But I was 28 years old, and I had spent my entire life hoping that somehow, someway my family would choose to love me instead of use me. So I made the decision that changed everything. I followed Amber back to her group near the bar. The mayor was in the middle of presenting her with a ceremonial key to the city when I stepped forward. Ladies and gentlemen, I said, my voice carrying across the ballroom, I need to tell you something about my sister's award. The room went silent. All 70 guests turned to look at me, and I saw in their faces exactly what Amber had been planning for. They were not curious about what I had to say. They were embarrassed for me, uncomfortable with my obvious jealousy and instability. They already knew I was the problem. Pauline, stop, Amber said, but loud enough for everyone to hear. You are embarrassing yourself. The Morrison campaign that won her this award. I continued, my voice getting stronger. She did not create it. She stole it from another agency and... I never got to finish the sentence. Amber's fist connected with my face so hard that I heard my nose crack. The pain was instantaneous and shocking, but worse than the physical impact was the sound it made in the sudden silence of the ballroom. 70 people watched my sister punch me in the face, and not one of them moved to help. Before I could even process what had happened, Amber had grabbed a handful of my hair and was dragging me across the ballroom toward the exit. I could hear my dress tearing, could feel my carefully styled hair coming undone, could taste blood in my mouth from my broken nose. But what I remember most clearly is the sound of my heels clicking against the marble floor as I tried to keep my footing, and the absolute silence from every single person in that room. Get out! Amber was screaming as she pulled me. Get out right now! You are embarrassing yourself and this entire family. I looked desperately toward the table where my mother was sitting. Martha was not horrified by what was happening. She was not rushing to help me or demand that Amber stop. She was smiling, actually smiling as if she was watching something she had been waiting to see for a very long time. Mom, I managed to say, blood from my nose making my voice sound strange. Mom, please. She looked directly at me and said nothing, just kept smiling, that satisfied, vindictive smile. The security guards finally intervened, but not to help me. They helped Amber escort me out of the building while she continued to scream about how I was mentally unstable and had been harassing the family for months. As they pushed me through the front doors of the country club, I heard the sound of applause from inside the ballroom. They were applauding my removal, like it was part of the evening's entertainment. I found myself alone in the parking lot, my dress torn and bloody, my hair hanging in tangled pieces around my face. My purse was still inside, so I did not even have my keys or my phone initially. A valet eventually brought them to me, looking at me with a mixture of pity and disgust that made me feel even more humiliated. I sat in my car for a long time, watching the warm light spilling from the ballroom windows, listening to the faint sounds of laughter and music. The party was continuing as if nothing had happened, as if I had never existed. My reflection in the rearview mirror showed a woman I barely recognized. My nose was definitely broken. Blood had stained the front of my beautiful navy dress, and my eyes had the hollow look of someone who had just realized that everything they believed about their life was a lie. That was when I remembered Sarah Martinez. We had gone to college together, and she was now an investigative reporter for Channel 7 News. Sarah specialized in business fraud and corruption cases, and 6 months ago she had called me asking if I knew anything about irregularities in local marketing firms. I had not been able to help her then because I was not sure about what I had seen with the Morrison account. But now, sitting in that parking lot with blood on my dress and the taste of betrayal in my mouth, I was very sure indeed. I called Sarah from my car, and she answered on the second ring, despite it being 9:30 on a Saturday night. "Pauline, what is wrong? You sound terrible." "Sarah, do you still have contacts at Morrison's restaurant group? And are you still investigating marketing fraud in the city? Why, what happened?" I told her everything. About the original campaign concepts I had seen about Amber's theft of intellectual property, about the systematic campaign to discredit me, about what had just happened at the award ceremony. Sarah listened without interrupting, and I could hear her typing notes as I talked. "Can you prove any of this?" she asked when I finished. "I kept copies of everything when I was doing their books," I said. "I have the original creative briefs, the timeline showing when the work was actually done, records of the payments to the agency that created the concepts. It is all in my files at home." "And you are willing to go on record with this?" I looked back at the country club where my family was celebrating the destruction of my reputation and made the easiest decision of my life. Yes. Sarah's investigation moved faster than I could have imagined. By Monday morning, she had contacted the original creative agency, interviewed their former employees, and obtained copies of their work files. By Tuesday, she had reached out to Morrison's restaurant group and discovered that they had never been told about the ownership dispute over the campaign concepts. By Wednesday, she had compiled enough evidence to present to her news director. The story broke on Thursday evening. Channel 7's investigative segment featured a comprehensive exposé of Golden Touch Marketing's fraudulent practices, complete with side-by-side comparisons of the original creative work and Amber's supposed innovations. They interviewed the creative director from the original agency, who had been wondering for months how his team's work had ended up winning awards under someone else's name. But the story did not stop with business fraud. Sarah had done her homework, and she had discovered that Golden Touch Marketing had several other questionable campaigns in their portfolio. Once she started pulling threads, the entire fabric of Amber's business began to unravel. Tax irregularities, inflated client testimonials, claims of awards that did not exist. It was a comprehensive house of cards built on lies and stolen work. The Chamber of Commerce revoked Amber's Businesswoman of the Year award before the weekend. 3 of her biggest clients terminated their contracts by the following Monday. By the end of the month, Golden Touch Marketing had filed for bankruptcy. But the most satisfying part was watching my mother's social circle turn against her. The same women who had smiled and congratulated her on raising such a successful daughter suddenly found reasons to exclude her from their book club, their charity committees, their weekly bridge games. When the truth came out about how she had helped orchestrate the systematic destruction of my reputation, these pillars of the community wanted nothing to do with Martha Henderson. I would love to say that watching their lives fall apart felt as good as I thought it would, but the truth is more complicated than that. For the first few weeks after the news story broke, I felt vindicated and powerful. Justice had been served, and the people who had hurt me were finally facing consequences for their actions. But as the initial rush of victory faded, I was left with something I had not expected: emptiness, revenge. it turns out is a lot like eating sugar when you are hungry. It gives you a quick rush of satisfaction, but it does not actually nourish you. And I was starving for the kind of love and acceptance that I had spent 28 years trying to earn from people who were never going to give it to me. The hardest part was realizing that I had been complicit in my own mistreatment for years. Every time I had accepted their dismissive comments, every time I had tried harder to prove my worth, every time I had made excuses for their behavior, I had been teaching them that it was acceptable to treat me as less than human. I had been so desperate to be part of their family that I had forgotten I deserved to be treated with basic respect and kindness. I started therapy 2 weeks after the news story aired. My therapist, Dr. Patricia Williams, helped me understand that growing up in a family where love was conditional had taught me to believe that I was fundamentally unworthy of unconditional acceptance. I had spent my entire adult life trying to earn something that should have been given freely, and in the process, I had lost myself completely. The healing process was not linear or easy. There were days when I missed them so much that I considered calling to apologize, even though I had nothing to apologize for. There were nights when I wondered if destroying their lives had been worth the cost of being completely alone in the world. But slowly, with Dr. Williams' help, I began to build a sense of self-worth that was not dependent on other people's approval. I also started building genuine relationships for the first time in my life. My coworker Janet, who had always been friendly but whom I had kept at arm's length, became a real friend when I finally let her see who I really was, beyond my desperate need to be perfect. I joined a book club at the local library and discovered that I actually enjoyed discussing literature with people who valued my opinions. I started taking art classes and learned that I had a talent for watercolor painting that had nothing to do with anyone else's expectations. 6 months after that terrible night at the country club, I moved to a new apartment in a different part of the city. It was smaller than my old place but had better light and a tiny balcony where I could set up an easel. For the first time in my life, I decorated a space to reflect my own tastes, instead of trying to impress people who would never be impressed by me. Amber and I have not spoken since that night. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she eventually found work at a small marketing firm in another state, starting over at an entry-level position. My mother sent me a letter 6 months ago, suggesting that perhaps we could meet for coffee and discuss the possibility of rebuilding our relationship. I read the letter twice, then threw it away. Some bridges once burned should stay burned. I learned that I did not destroy their lives that night. I simply revealed who they really were underneath the facade of success and respectability. People who are genuinely good do not systematically destroy their own family members' reputation to protect their stolen achievements. People who truly love you do not smile when you are being publicly humiliated and physically assaulted. I had spent years making excuses for their behavior, trying to find ways to earn their love, when the truth was that they were not capable of loving anyone except themselves. The most important thing I learned is that family is not about blood. It is about respect, kindness, and genuine care for each other's well-being. The people I consider family now are the ones who celebrate my successes without jealousy, who support me during difficult times without conditions, and who would never ever stand by and watch someone hurt me without intervening. Sometimes I still wonder if things could have been different if I had spoken up sooner about what I knew, if I had set better boundaries earlier in our relationship, if I had demanded respect instead of begging for love. But I have learned that some people only change when the consequences finally catch up with them, and even then, they often change their circumstances rather than their character. What happened to me that night was traumatic and cruel, but it also set me free. I am no longer trapped in the exhausting cycle of trying to prove my worth to people who had already decided I was worthless. I no longer wake up every day hoping that this will be the day they finally see me as worthy of their love. I have learned to love myself instead, and that has made all the difference. That night taught me that blood does not make family. Respect, kindness, and genuine love do. And sometimes walking away from toxicity is the most loving thing you can do for yourself. I hope sharing my story helps someone else who might be trapped in a similar situation. Have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and your own well-being? How did you handle it? Let me know in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please give it a like and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Do not forget to subscribe for more real-life stories about finding strength in difficult situations. Thank you for listening, and remember that you deserve to be treated with respect and kindness, no matter what your family history looks like. Until next time, take care of yourselves.